Thank you, everybody, for tuning into Quadrant 4 Politics. That's where we discuss politics and have some fun while we're doing it from a Republican and a Libertarian standpoint.
Is that how you define yourself?
That's right. I'm a Republican. Well, no, I go by conservative, but that doesn't sound as twangy. My name is Matt. I'm here with Riley, the Libertarian who believes in anarchy. And we want to thank you for joining us. We are going to be broadcasting this on Anchor and what
Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and
go.
YouTube.
Yes, YouTube. So thank you for joining us. Make sure to like, subscribe, share us with your friends, and let us know if you have any ideas for topics to cover. Today we're just going to be doing our regular grab bags, I believe, right?
Yeah, that's right. And we have a question or a comment.
Oh, that's right.
Do you want to go over that?
Well, sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Should I just?
I can pull this up.
Okay. Well, you sure certainly do that.
Okay, cool. I got it right here. All right.
Okay, great.
This comment is an interesting one. Is there any more stuff we have to say before we begin? I guess we're just going into it. Let's do this. So this comment is...
Fourth wall, buddy.
Yeah, let's go. Breaking the fourth wall. Let me see. So this comment is from Edward Bronca on YouTube. Sorry if we're exposing you, but... it's public on the internet, so that's okay.
That's right, it is.
Let me see. This is a response to our video titled, Should the Government Increase Funding for Medicaid?
And just to recap, what was our positions on that?
No, the government shouldn't increase funding for Medicaid.
And I think I said, no, but we should reallocate it from other places.
Yeah, I mean, if you want our opinions, watch that episode. How about that? Let's get some views on that one.
All right.
Anyway, so we got a comment. Pretty interesting one. This person says, by the way, thank you so much for leaving a comment. We appreciate your input, and if you have a different opinion than us, we appreciate you stretching our brains.
Because I'm about to tear this person apart.
Ouch.
So.
Well, don't be too mean.
I won't.
This person left us a comment. It was so nice of them.
It could have been just based on the title, though.
That's true. They could have just been like, fuck these guys. I'm just going to leave a nasty comment.
That's
true. This comment's not nasty, though. It's actually well thought out. But without further ado, let's stop delaying. He says, I think it's a dude, Edward, yeah. So he says, I am 68 years old, and I have been disabled for all my life. I don't pay anything for the many medications that I must take. I don't pay anything for any of my health care. I don't pay any Medicare premiums because New York State's Medicaid program pays my premiums for me. My health care is paid by Medicare and Medicaid. My income is SSDI and SSI. Do you know what SSDI is? Disabled?
Social Security Disability Income, maybe, and then Social Security Income.
So, since he's retired, he makes SSI and he makes SSDI as a disability. So he's making two payments?
Yeah, so it might be the
two incomes?
Medicare and Medicaid.
Okay.
If I'm interpreting it correctly. I could be wrong.
Because I have many serious medical issues, I see doctors about once a week, and I take many medications. I needed to be hospitalized 3 times this year alone. I know that I am costing you taxpayers a heck of a lot of money, but what can I do? I am not going to commit suicide, and I want to remain alive for as long as I possibly can. By the way, on the infrequent occasions that I receive a medical bill, I toss it into the garbage can and then I forget that I received it. So this is an interesting comment. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate the thoughts. And this is an interesting one. I like how he says I'm not going to commit suicide because that's always my first answer.
It is, and I was actually going to say I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that you're not committing suicide and that you value life and you're going to continue to live it out. And that's why I am fully in favor of helping those who can't help themselves. Now, this guy says he's disabled, doesn't tell us to what degree, but he's got to be in the hospital once a week. I know what it's like to have lots of doctor's appointments, a lot of medications, but not to the point to where I'm not able to work alongside it, at least at this point.
Yeah.
I think there are definitely people on disability who don't need to be on it. And I can't speak to this guy's situation without knowing more about it. But I would rather him stay alive and try to have a good quality of life. And I'm fine. I'm not fine paying for it, but I would rather live in a rational society than completely libertarian one where it's just hands off for everybody and you fend for yourself. The only thing that I really don't like about this is the last sentence. It just screams like I don't give an F.
Yeah.
I guess the last sentence and a half, like I know you guys are paying for it, and if I get a bill, I throw it away.
Yeah.
I have insurance, but I still get bills for co-pays or for whatever insurance didn't cover.
I don't know how you can throw away a bill and not pay it. Like,
well, because in his situation, it's probably that they're not going to discontinue his service if he's disabled.
But doesn't it go to collections and then just F up your credit score?
Yeah, but he has got bigger fish to fry. I mean, back when my credit score was a lot worse than it is,
I just figured you'd get in trouble for not paying bills, like you go to jail.
Well, I mean, potentially, but otherwise you'd see a lot more people in jail. Like, you have to have a creditor that really wants to pursue it, and medical debt's kind of considered, less of a violation. But back when my credit score was a lot lower, and even still today, I reminded myself that I am more than my credit score, So if somebody's got a 400 credit score, it doesn't make them more or less of a person than somebody who's got a 750. So my point to that was that, maybe that's not his biggest concern if his credit score is going down, if he's getting the health care he needs. Without speaking to his situation, I would say that that's pretty much what I said was, no problem with, helping people who aren't able to help themselves. But if you are able to work and you're not, then you're just frauding the system and costing people more.
It sounds like he's in a hard situation, and I understand that this stuff isn't easy. Fucking health insurance, just thinking about health insurance makes me want to put a bullet in my head because it's so frustrating, it's so expensive. The system we have right now is just garbage. In the episode that he replied to, I actually said that I would prefer socialized healthcare over our current system just because what we have is so bad and anything would be better. I wouldn't support a socialized healthcare system, but I would be more satisfied with that than what we currently have. But my quick response is let the wealthy pay for it through charities and grants and what do you call that? Scholarships. I know it's for school, but like the same kind of idea, foundations. And I'm not talking about taxing, but I think that if we stop taxing the rich and, stop limiting them in so many ways and demonizing them, that they will help society. In a libertarian, like, perfect world, at least from my understanding, it's like, yeah, we sound heartless when we say, no, the government shouldn't help people who are in wheelchairs or extremely disabled and stuff like that. I think that, we don't want the government to do that for us. We want the wealthy people to do that for us on their own accord, not through taxes. But I believe that, like Bill Gates set up the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos have both donated so much money to charity. And I think that if the government stopped funding, people with disabilities and who need medical help, that the wealthy people would step in and, go to hospitals and say, here's a ton of money, or like ask the hospitals, like, who would qualify for this, or who do you think needs this support, and then they would be willing to help out. I really do think that that's, I don't think that billionaires are evil people. I think that they are good people, and if the government stopped intruding on them and telling them what to do with their money and taking their money from them, that they would give their money willingly, because no one needs $1 billion. It's more money than you'll spend in a lifetime. So, my answer would be to rely on the wealthy, and I know that that doesn't sound like a stable answer, like it was something that you couldn't rely on, but it's better than taxes, because I think taxation is theft, because in the end you're just taxing the poor people to pay for the poor people.
And that's my idea behind all this, the idea of socializing everything. I don't mind socializing medicine for people who are disabled. I think depending on the rich to do it is hoping they will do something nice, and perhaps they will, but we can't for sure depend on that. So what we could say is we could tax the rich to pay for the poor, which is music to a liberal's ear, but when it comes to fairness, it's not exactly fair.
I'm ethically against taking away someone's money that's hard earned, just taking it from them and giving it to someone else in need. Like, I understand that sounds like the good
wealthy,
Christian thing to do, but I don't think it's the right thing to do. Also, there's this beautiful thing, we've talked about this before on the podcast, called GoFundMe, and people look at GoFundMe as a failure of capitalism, that capitalism has failed and people need to rely on GoFundMe to pay their medical bills. But I see it a different way. I see that as a magical thing, that like this is society teaming up together and donating to help each other. I think that is one of the most inspiring things and heartwarming, and gives me like faith in humanity again.
Really?
That people, yeah, when someone posts on Facebook like, hey, I having lots of problems, I have all these bills that I can't pay, can you guys help me out through GoFundMe? And people donate all the time. You always hear success stories, and I know personally several people who have had success stories, because you don't need to rely on just one wealthy person. You can rely on a bunch of like middle income people to donate a little bit, and then you got a bunch of money to help out. Also, we have a bankruptcy system in our country that people rely on to help with medical expenses. They say like 75% of the reason why people do go bankrupt is because of medical expenses. And I'm not saying that that's something that we should rely on because it's bad for the economy, but since it's there, that's always a last resort kind of thing, is if your bills get too much, you can just declare bankruptcy. I'm not sure what the expenses of that are. Like, personally, I'm not sure what it does to your credit score and all that kind of stuff, but that's an option. I mean, my mom, before she died, was always like, I'm just going to declare bankruptcy one day. And I was like, I looked down on her because of that, because it's irresponsible, but it's also like, it's not completely hopeless. Like, if your bills keep adding up, you can declare bankruptcy. You don't need to put a bullet in your head.
All right, Edward. So Riley just said, declare bankruptcy and go fund yourself. So there we
It almost
have
sound
it.
like, go fuck yourself and declare bankruptcy.
Pretty much.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for the comment. That was awesome.
That was fan-freaking-tastic. Let's move on to a grab bag question.
Yeah, we want more comments like that. So, I side with? You want to start with I side with?
Sure.
Cool. All right. I say this every time. I try not to make it too redundant, but we're pulling a question from the I Side With test. You can look it up online, isidewith.com or something like that. We cut up the questions, put them in a baggie, randomly selected. We don't fully support the test, but it's fun to answer the questions.
I recently took the test.
Yeah. And what, you got Trump?
Trump was who I was closest with, but still only 69%.
Nice.
And next was somebody I don't know, and then it was Bloomberg, and then a bunch of hippies. I remember Buttigieg or whatever was he was at 49%. So
oh, really?
Probably not going to vote.
Was he
for
the
him.
top of the Democrats for you?
No, there was like 3 or 4 Democrats.
Who was the top Democrat?
Bloomberg. Or no, some guy I don't know.
Mike Mullaney or something like that?
Not Mullaney, but something. I don't know. But anyway, it's a fun test to take, just to make yourself think, because
there's a lot of questions on there. That's for sure.
I mean, and it gives you also a lot of ways to reply too. So yeah.
Question of the day is.
This is. I don't know. Okay, let me. This is a fun one. Should cities be allowed to offer private companies economic incentives to relocate? So when I was answering this the other day, I can't remember how I answered, because I don't know if it's are they relocating them out or in? My guess is that cities are giving some sort of offer to get business to come in.
So it's a yes or no question, and it says, should cities be allowed to offer private companies economic incentives to relocate? So this is actually related to something that happened recently. Not too recently, but Amazon was looking for a second place to put their headquarters. Do you remember hearing about all the cities like doing a bunch of stuff for Amazon? Yeah, so that's exactly what this is talking about. Yeah, there was a bunch of cities all around the country that were like, come here, we'll give you tax incentives, and they did all sorts of crazy stuff. I can't remember all of them. I think they covered it on Last Week Tonight, but they may have done like parades, or everyone was wearing Amazon shirts or something like that. Like, they did some crazy stuff to get them there. And people think, well, let me see. Should cities be allowed to offer private companies economic incentives to relocate? I'm going to say no, and the reason why is because government shouldn't have that much power to begin with.
I'm going to say yes, and it's because government should be able to. Government essentially is a group of people, and they should be able to offer incentives to companies.
I just think that you're helping.
You're just so anti-government. You're just seeing it as government.
No, because I think that you are hindering the small businesses to compete. I think that, with Amazon, it's like
Amazon's competing with other cities.
If you are giving Amazon benefits to start in your city, then another company that's in your city that's a competitor of Amazon, you're pretty much just shutting them out because you've killed their ability to compete because you've given Amazon such an economic advantage.
Oh, that's a good point. Or even if it's not a competitor, if it's just a different company, and let's say to start a business you pay a certain percent, but we're saying, okay, Amazon, come in and we'll cut that in half. Mm-hmm. That's a good point. So that's not fair, but
one of the reasons why I don't like government is because they have so much power to change the economy and the free market. I mean, not the economy, the free market. And the free market only works. Just like people say, true socialism has never been tried. Well, the same is pretty much true with capitalism. That the free market has not been truly tried. At least in our society. And when the government is giving companies benefits, you've ruined the free market. Like, the free market isn't free anymore. All of a sudden they have an advantage by the government, which is it kills, competition, it kills innovation. It's just overall bad. Now, is it going to be that, is that going to devastate the market? No, but it's still... all of a sudden we don't have a free market anymore. You can't claim to have a free market when you're giving benefits to some companies.
Well, especially because we're talking about a city, which is local government, which, as I understand it, libertarians, if they prefer government, they prefer it more localized. And especially, let's say, in a city of 100,000 people, you can get to know your neighbor. You can talk to your city council. You guys can all be in on this, and so as a city you can make a choice. And I think the government is just the figureheads, and if they're the way elections are supposed to work is like, if you're doing what the people you represent want, you get reelected. If not, then you're ousted. But do I think cities should get to say, should Atlanta say we want you here, and Kansas City say we want you here, and Dallas say we also want you, and the three of them get into a bidding war? Sure. I see no reason not to, and answer is yes.
Unfortunately, I am neither of us claim to be super knowledgeable on any of the things that we talk about. We just try our best, and we're just coming at this from a casual perspective. Average Joes, that's right. Rileys. So I may not be explaining this as well as I want to, just because of my lack of knowledge, but it just seems like unnatural to encourage a business to come to your city. Like, what if you have a city, like we're in Seattle and Amazon is in Seattle, and you can say that since Amazon's rapid growth, Seattle has changed significantly, and maybe Amazon is the reason why Seattle has such a liberal city council. Maybe if Seattle hadn't grown so quickly because of Amazon, then the city council wouldn't be so liberal, wanting to fight back against Amazon, So, like, inviting a company into your city like that and just giving them benefits seems like you could just be welcoming in a new breed to your city that's going to change the city. And they're hoping that it changes the city for the better, but there's also the chance that it could change the city from the worse, because Amazon moving to your city doesn't mean that everyone living in your city is going to get Amazon jobs all of a sudden. It means Amazon's going to bring all of their employees to your city.
But, that's part of...
And that's also, they're going to be bringing in foreign labor and stuff like that, so it changes the city pretty dramatically, especially with a company as large as Amazon. It does,
but if the city's fine with it, then...
Yeah, but, because the city, as in the government of the city, is fine with it, does that mean all the citizens in the city are fine with it too?
Well, I don't know. Have a frickin' vote. But if the people of the city vote, technically the city's extending the invitation. So depending on how much you want to get into semantics about it, I get where you're coming from. I just, your arguments that because something bad could happen, we should just not do it in the first place. And for me, that just doesn't,
I just don't trust government, because everywhere the government steps their foot, bad things happen.
And that's your answer to every question.
It's goddamn right.
We got to put a little more thought into these. So let's try another one from the
political compass test.
political compass test.
Political compass test. I wish I could do Coach Steve from Big Mouth. I wish I could do that voice. Political compass test. That was
not even good.
I am bad at impressions.
That's really bad.
Yeah.
Alright.
So these questions are from the political compass test. You can look up political compass test on Google and take the test. It's fun.
I still want to fix it.
Yeah.
I will.
Maybe we can start a Patreon, and then like one of our Patreon goals, like when we get to $2,000 a month or something like that, we could be like, we'll make our own Patreon, or we'll make our own political compass test. Wouldn't that be dope?
That would, but I don't know that anybody wants to pay us to do that.
Maybe.
All right, if you guys want to pay us to do that, send us a check for $2,000.
That's not how Patreon works, but...
Don't care. PayPal it to us. All right, this is going to be another real fun one because the first word is government.
Oh, government. Bad.
So, government should penalize businesses that mislead the public.
Ooh, this is a good one. Can I read it?
Sure, I just read it, but sure.
So the answers are strongly disagree, disagree, agree, and strongly agree. Governments should penalize businesses
Please
that...
don't say penalize.
Is it penalize?
I say penalize. Some people say penalize.
Governments should penis businesses that mislead the public.
Mushroom stamp them.
Yeah, just governments should fuck businesses that mislead the public.
Watch your dirty mouth.
I know. Poor Kevin, shout out to Kevin, can't listen to this at work because of all the F words.
Not from me. I have a
just
clear virgin mouth.
Riley, yes you do.
Yes.
You're a good Christian.
That's right. Never done anything wrong. Just, what was that? Do you remember in, I think it was Borat, he goes to the gay conversion church.
Okay.
And he's like, have you ever sucked a dick? And the pastor's like, he takes his finger and he goes, these lips were made for praising Jesus. I'm going to start doing that to you now. These lips were made for praising Jesus.
That's pretty good.
Okay. Anyway, watch your mouth. Okay.
Sorry.
What were we doing?
So should governments penalize businesses that mislead the public?
Why don't you answer first?
Man, this is a tough one because
Really?
This is where I start to be anti-libertarian because I'm a big fan of the Reason podcast, and something on the Reason podcast that I discussed recently was medical companies or hospitals being forced to disclose the prices on their like everything they do at the hospital. And apparently that might become a nationwide thing because as of right now, the hospital doesn't know what they're going to bill you until they bill you. And I think that is really shady and really suspect. Just because of all the billing and regulations and shit they have to go through, they don't have a way to tell you what you're going to be paying until you pay it. Like, when I went to the dentist a long time ago, I paid the bill in full. I got my work done and I paid while I was still there and I left. And then like a month later, I got a bill in the mail for $75. And I went in there. I wasn't mad or anything, but I went in there. I was like, why did I get this bill for $75? And they were like, we can't find out what the total is going to be right away. And I was like, is there any way that we can prevent this from happening in the future? It's just an honest question. I would never be mean to customer service. But the girl got offended and she was like, yo man, we try our best. And I was like, well, I wasn't trying to offend you or anything. But apparently from what I learned from that personal experience is that they just straight up don't know what they're going to charge you because of all the way that the medical system in this country is. So, but the reason why I'm saying it's anti-libertarian, my thoughts is strange. Because on the podcast they said that they disagree with that forcing corporations to do something like that is not libertarian. But I think that that's something I would force corporations to do. I think that they should list the ingredients on all consumables because people need to know if they're allergic to stuff. I think that they need to be honest with their prices. And basic stuff like that, like I think obviously I'm against regulations, but if Five Guys sells you a burger that makes you super ill, not just like food poisoning, because that's like within the realm of reason, it could have been an accident or like a shitty employee or something like that. But if you got something really terrible, like Chipotle did the Ebola thing, think they got sued, that kind of thing, then absolutely, yeah, I think
you
that
mean
business
E.
coli, yeah.
Ebola.
Ebola, right. Like I said, I'm not the wisest person about the things I speak, but the point is that I think that, yes, businesses should be penalized for that kind of stuff, for misleading the public, false advertising, stuff like that, and within the realm of reason. Obviously, I lean on the side of less government, but I think there's within reason for this, that businesses, I'm a big fan of the free market, but the free market can't work if the person buying the product doesn't know what it is or what the price is.
Well, this isn't going to be very interesting because my answer's pretty much identical to yours, so I would say...
I guess I would say agree.
Yes, and I would say agree, and that's that businesses should not be able to mislead the public in a strong way, like if they say new and improved packaging, and it's not that new or improved, whatever, Yeah. But
within the realm of reason.
If they say something's 100 calories and it's actually 1,000, and they're doing it to get you to buy it, that's misleading the public. And the government is the institution we have to keep that from happening. And what I've constantly said to my good libertarian friends is that government, while it does kind of restrict us, it is also how we ensure that each of us is able to enjoy our own freedoms without other people infringing upon them. So we need to have that little amount. So, but yeah, my answer is pretty much right along with yours. So let's pick another question.
Yeah, back to the I side with?
Yeah.
I side with. Very cool.
Oh, there's a lot of these in here.
Yeah, that one has way more questions than the political
and
compass
it covers
does.
like every topic.
It's beautiful. I think I side with is better than the political compass test. The only thing is that its results are weird. Like, I wish the I side with would give you a political compass map. Does it when you finish it?
It doesn't, because that's not the concept.
Yeah,
of it.
The concept is to find out which politician.
Yeah, and actually, you can go through every single question, and it showed me who I agreed with and disagreed with.
Yeah. And
it was pretty surprising. Like certain things, like when I found myself to be on more conservative on something than Trump, I was like, okay, is it time to reevaluate my opinion? Or
that's smart.
Okay.
So I have a question for you before we begin this.
Sure.
At the top of the show, you said that you're conservative. That's how you define yourself?
Well, just for the fun of twanginess, I did Republican.
Oh, okay.
But yes, I think we've covered that in many episodes.
Well,
yeah.
I think that...
I mean,
my personal thoughts...
In general, yes.
In my personal thoughts, from the way I've heard you speak, I think that you're a libertarian. You're just on the northern side of the libertarian compass.
Yes, that's correct.
So, I mean, yes, you could technically be on the fence of conservative libertarian, 4. But I think you're just like on the libertarian side of the fence. Yeah, so I think it would make more sense for you to call yourself a libertarian just to help the cause, but then vote Republican when there's no L. For those of you who can't see, Matt is visibly frustrated with me.
I am visibly frustrated because, one, that turns us into a completely libertarian show we're having.
Yeah.
Well, we're quadrant 4. We're not just bottom line. Okay, everybody, we're now called bottom line.
Bottom line politics.
Actually, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. It could be sexual. The show where we have gay sex while discussing politics. Bottom line.
I can't even imagine what that would be like, but it sounds interesting. All right, I'm just going to read the question. Oh, gosh.
This is a good one?
It's so similar to the last two.
Oh, all right. Well, that's fine.
Should the government increase spending on public transportation?
Oh, yeah. Well... Yeah, this is a bad question considering the ones we just did. But let's.
If we get through it quick, we can do a fourth question. We almost never do 4 questions in a show.
That's impressive.
Let me tell you my answer real quick.
Well, hold on.
Let me tell you.
I want to read it.
Okay, you read it.
Okay. The answers are yes or no. And should the government increase spending on public transportation?
Oh.
Go ahead, Matt.
No, they should not. People should pay for their own damn transportation. And let me tell you what makes me really mad. We're here in Washington State. I-976 passed, meaning we pay less and the transportation department gets less for our tabs, and it's held up in court, even though 55% of the voters
Because the
voted that
government's
way.
terrible.
Which is why we need to get rid of our governor, we need to get rid of our attorney general, we need to vote Republican in this next election to make Washington great again.
Make Washington great again. That's the name of our podcast. The reason why I am against public transportation is because private companies have done it better. Look at Uber and Lyft. You look at the bus, and it's like, yes, the bus is nice for the extremely poor, homeless people who don't have a cell phone to have Uber and Lyft, the apps, you know. But the bus sucks. In Seattle, there's people doing heroin on the bus. You know, it's full of crazy people who are pissing on the bus and, you know, doing all sorts of crazy shit on there, screaming, yelling at the bus driver. It's like, sure, it's only $2.75, but you have to wait for it. You have to deal with the people on the bus.
Yeah, on their schedule.
You have to go on their schedule. You know, if you want to get from one place to another, you have to take multiple buses. Like, the bus system sucks. And I know because I've relied on the bus system a lot because I don't have a vehicle. Whereas you look at Uber and Lyft, it's like Uber and Lyft is fairly priced. There's competition that keeps the price low because Uber and Lyft are both pretty equal in this area. It offers tons of jobs to people who want to work a schedule of their own. They like a tip-based economy. They like driving around. You know, it offers tons of jobs. And it's better for me as a customer because I can get from here to the other side of the of Lake Washington no problem with an Uber on my own schedule, instead of taking, you know, 2-3 buses to get where I want to go. And, you know, it's significantly faster and a better experience because Ubers are usually nice. They usually have phone chargers in there and candy, sometimes water bottles. You know, sometimes they'll have a nice discussion in the car. And overall, I think it might be a little bit safer too.
Well, and you bring up a really good point overall, but transportation does more than just buses. They also do, you know, they build the roads and they do the ferries and all that crap, which is stuff that I know you want to privatize, so let's not even have that conversation because we've had it before. But my point is that we are already putting so much money into this and not seeing any results, and
the roads are still trash.
They do
construction forever.
For some reason, the state voted on what's that thing they're building? The light rail? Yeah, well, yeah. I say that I-976, they made a clear point that if you get rid of this, you get rid of the money for light rail. So I say light rail's null and void now.
Yeah. Well, the light rail is bad because it's taken too long to build it. It's too expensive, and by the time it's built, I mean, when they designed the plans for it, it was already outdated. But by the time it's finished, it's going to be really outdated. You know, they got bullet trains in China and Japan and stuff like that, and you know, what we're building right now is a clusterfuck. To be honest, like it's just trash.
Oh, it's totally true. And think about this. Of everything,
and it's making traffic worse, and it's not going to make it better.
Well, yeah, because by the time it's kind of like, you know, they build 8-lane highways, and by the time they've done that, it should have been 16.
Yeah.
So they put in the extra lanes, and by the time they do that, it's just kind of like a never-ending problem. But consider how technology has advanced from 1960. Looking for information. It used to be you go to the library, now it's you get to your desk and get on the computer. As far as talking to somebody across the world, you'd write a letter. Now you send an email.
Yeah.
Talking to someone in your own city, you don't have to be at home to do that. Transportation hasn't advanced much in the last 60, 70 years. I think before the government gets more money from us for transportation, they need to work on a way to make it quicker. And well, yes, bullet trains everywhere. Mm-hmm. Just, I mean, not literally, but because there's lots of places bullet trains aren't feasible, you know, like putting them in the suburbs, but...
Well, it supports my idea that, you know, privatizing things and competition lead to innovation, whereas if you give something to the government, it never innovates. It rarely innovates, you know. The buses have changed their design style, and we have electric buses and stuff like that. But there's no phone chargers on the buses. There's no candy on the buses.
Irrelevant. No,
well, the fact I'm trying to make is that like private industries do so much better and offer us the luxuries that we want.
So yes, as far as the buses come, I agree with you on the privatizing. As far as the rest of it comes, I say do better or make things faster.
Well, the roads is a big libertarian thing that they want the roads to be privatized, which I agree with.
It's not going to happen. It's a stupid idea. Let me tell you why.
I don't think it ever will happen, but I don't think it's a stupid idea.
Because the police should never be privatized, and the police monitor the roads.
Some libertarians support
don't care about
privatizing the police. I do not. I am not one of the privatize the police.
And so, what do the police do when you own the road?
Well,
what happens when a crime happens on your road?
Well, that's something that we can plan for later.
Oh, a discussion for later.
Yeah.
So
it's something that I don't have the answer to right now. I could think of something, but not quick enough to say on the podcast.
All right. Well, at least you're being honest.
Yeah.
Let's get to our fourth and final question.
Well, I just want to say the ferries would be better if they were privatized as well.
That's true, but I mean, those are expensive, right?
Someone would buy it. You'd make money by running the ferry.
Yeah, the
operation.
rich.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, but
and the rich are the enemy.
No. Have you ever? I've learned about Ayn Rand recently because of our good friend Jack.
Oh gosh,
and,
Jack. Jack.
Yeah. Ayn Rand, from what I've been told, is her novels were about how billionaires are doing so much for us in innovation and giving so much back to society, and people just hate them. Like if you look at what the liberals are saying, they hate the billionaires. They say billionaires shouldn't exist and stuff like that. They need to be taxed to hell and back. But like if the libertarians bought the ferry system and made it better, that'd be awesome. I'd be like, thank you.
You mean the billionaires?
Yeah, what did I say?
Libertarians.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's libertarians too. But no, if the billionaires bought the ferry system, which is, by the way, we're like one of the few places in the world that has ferries. So most people listening to this podcast are like, what the fuck is a ferry?
Well, it's because we got to get from one side to the other.
We have the sound. But no, most of America has not a clue what a ferry is.
I think they know. I think they get the concept.
Maybe.
It's a big boat that goes across one lake of one body of water.
I just know people come here and see the ferries and they're like, you can drive cars on a boat? Are you fucking kidding me? It's amazing.
That is actually pretty cool. Yeah.
I love the ferry. The ferry's awesome.
Well, when I was a kid, my dad used to take us, like, we'd walk onto the ferry and we would just ride it. One time, like, they actually came up to us because they're like, yeah, you've been on the ferry for a while. And they're like, it's supposed to be a max of 3 times round trip.
Really?
Like, if you're on there just for fun.
Yeah.
And the person was like, we're not really going to enforce it, but just wanted to let you know.
I thought they kicked everyone off the ferry when they got to one side.
No, I mean... they might now, but back then, it was sort of like late 90s, early 2000s.
I like taking a dog on the ferry because they get really cold because it's really cold on the ferry, but their hair is also blowing in the wind and they always look ridiculous. I'd love to take Mystic on the ferry, but that would be
a pretty kitty.
By the way, Mystic is in the room, my cat. I would love to take him on the ferry because he's extremely bad and that would be very torturous for him and it would get a good laugh from me.
But he wouldn't be able to jump off like he'd want to because it's water.
That would be horrible.
It would be funny.
The water under the ferry is scary. I always look down and I cry. Is it a good question?
It's just following this. It's just all the same thing today, but all right.
That's right. The moral of this podcast is government is bad.
A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies.
Can I read that?
Yeah.
The answers are strongly disagree, agree, and strongly agree. Just a reminder, what if we have a new viewer and they're like, oh man, Riley, thank you so much.
In the middle of the show.
In the middle of the show.
This isn't Maury. Like, if you're just joining us, Shaquanda is trying to figure out who her baby daddy is. Like, most people are press and play from the beginning. So.
No, sometimes I start my podcast halfway through, because I like to be lost. It makes me feel normal. All right. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. Wow, this is a complicated question.
It is. It's got lots of big words.
It does have big words, so I'm going to read it again slowly.
Okay.
A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. So I think predator multinationals, they're talking about really big international companies.
I would agree.
An example would probably be like PlayStation or Nintendo or Xbox. I'm just using video game ones because I know video games pretty well, but like those are all companies that exist. Like Nintendo is based out of Japan, but they also have Nintendo of America and Nintendo of Europe and stuff like that. McDonald's is a good one. That's a better example.
So I think if we use the word international, it would make... Read it again with international.
A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of internationals to create monopolies.
International companies to create monopolies is what I'm thinking.
Predator multinationals. That's a weird term. It's weird that they're using that, but maybe they're just talking about like really aggressive oil companies or something like that. Anyways, do you think that a free market requires restrictions on those predator multinationals? Wait. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. Oh, it's a restriction on them so that they can't create monopolies. Okay, cool. I don't necessarily think in a free market that monopolies are bad.
That's what I've kind of thought, because from my understanding, monopolies are illegal. I don't know if that's
Monopolies
true.
are currently illegal, yes.
But doesn't that mean you've done your job to its success?
Well,
like you've done so well at it that...
Yeah, so if you don't mind me ranting for a bit, monopolies, first of all, the government is hypocritical because the patent system is a government-created monopoly. Someone invents something and they buy a patent from the government and the government says, you're the only one who can create that. So they've just created a monopoly right then and there, which is why like insulin is so expensive, is because someone owns the right to insulin and now no one can compete and create other forms of insulin, so they just drove the market up. But that's a government enforced monopoly, whereas I think a free market monopoly, which won't exist in today's society just because government's so powerful and makes so many dumb mistakes, but in a true free market, a monopoly would only be a monopoly because they've done such a good job. And the people fear monopolies because they say once you've dominated the market, you can just raise the prices and, you know, people just have to suck it up if they want your product. But I disagree, because in a free market, a monopoly won't stay a monopoly very long if they start treating their customers like crap, because then someone else will come in and be like, hey, I'm going to create a competitor and we're going to treat our customers real well, and the customers will go to them instead, and now all of a sudden there's not a monopoly anymore. So it seems like a non-issue in a free market, but the fact of the matter is that monopolies are still very active and people can find loopholes for them. Look at Comcast. If you go on the other side of the mountains to Spokane, Comcast still exists over there. It's just called a different company, but it's the same company.
Well, and
it's
that's still not even competition. It's two different markets.
Well, yeah, but the point is that here where I live, I only have like Comcast might be my only option for internet,
I think it is your only option unless you want to go with Dish.
With satellite
which
internet,
no one
or something
wants to
like
do that.
Yeah, because it's not as good, and so that's a monopoly right there, and government enforces that because they're not going to let someone else put up power lines to create new internet, you know?
So I think with everything that says, what sticks out to me here is the fact that we're talking about predator international is how I'm interpreting it. Predator international companies creating monopolies.
Do you think they should be restricted to stop them from creating monopolies?
Well, that's not exactly the question. It's a genuine free market requires restrictions. So I guess if we're going to interpret it your way, I would say I disagree, because if you want to talk about a free market in the sense you're talking about...
A truly free market.
Yeah, but if I'm talking about it from a reasonable person standpoint, not a libertarian standpoint, no offense, my answer would be slightly agree, because you can't just you can't really let any company, but especially the big ones with the big influence that hold the global power, you can't let them come in and just run everything on their own, and otherwise it just will create disaster. And in general, I'm against regulations, but I think, you know, especially the bigger the company, the more we kind of have to look at it and the long-term effects. So this one doesn't get really a strong answer from me. Most of them don't, but I would say agree, because we're talking about predator multinational companies. We're talking about restrictions to stop them from being a monopoly. This is a multi-part question, but for the sake of the question, my answer would be agree.
I think that even in today's society, with the lack of free market that we do have, I still think that there shouldn't be restrictions on companies to create monopolies, because companies always find loopholes, like we were talking about with Comcast and with the patent system. But if you're looking at, let's say, McDonald's becomes the only fast food restaurant chain in America. They've created a monopoly, but then they raise their prices really high. Like, people are afraid of monopolies because they have too much power, but in the system that we have right now, someone could create a competitor to McDonald's, no problem, and then, treat the customers better. Because customers, we have the power. That's why I support a free market. That's why I'm a libertarian, is because liberals, people who are big government, are afraid of billionaires. They think they have too much power, but in reality, at least from my perspective, we're the ones who have power, because if a company does something we don't like, we don't have to support that company anymore. And I believe that that's where the power really lies, because they need us to make their money. We don't need them. And because there will always be competition out there and other options for us. So that's why I don't think monopolies are that scary, because I think anytime there is a monopoly, there will be a competitor. And any industry where they can monopolize is pretty much because of the government. The government has stopped competition.
And even before we started this recording, I've had similar thoughts about monopolies, is that I don't know if they're as bad as we think. My answer still stays on the side of agree, just because of the complexity of the question. But in terms of monopolies, something I am just now thinking of, which is kind of interesting, is the two main movie theater companies, at least in this area, and perhaps in the U.S., I think they are the two biggest in the U.S., are Regal Cinemas and AMC. I worked for Regal. And the fact of the matter is, no matter which one you went to, you're paying way more than you think the value of the movie ticket is. Mm-hmm. You're paying way more than you think the value of the popcorn or the drink is. And the fact is they could compete with each other and lower their prices by a quarter or so. And they do. There was usually about a quarter difference in the same market, but that's not enough to carry one customer base. So all of there has to do is be mutual agreement between...
Well, that's against the law, too.
Two-part, what is?
Companies teaming up. I'll give you a personal example. We used to work at a hotel together, and for a part of our time working there, we were supposed to call around to the other hotels in the area to find out what their rate and occupancy was. We stopped doing that because they found out that that's illegal to do, because it's like... The point of competition is to lower the prices and help the customers. But when all the companies in an area say, hey, let's just work together and bump up the prices so that customers don't have an option, otherwise to stay at a hotel in an area that they need, they're forced to pay those exorbitant prices or the higher rates. And that is against the law. And if I think that should be against the law, I'm still debating that internally myself. But that is against the law. There's a term for that. I don't know what it is, but it's essentially companies working together. All the gas stations on a corner saying, instead of competing against each other, let's just work together and raise our prices all up to the same price, so that anyone who shops with us, we're making a good profit off of it anyways. So that there's a term for that. I don't know what it is, but it is illegal. It's very illegal.
Okay, so the fact is it's illegal according to you. I haven't heard that, but sure, probably. The fact is that there's still this natural understanding that when you go to the movie theater, you're going to pay like $10 for your popcorn and $7 for your soda and $5 for your candy. And there's this general understanding. And even though there's the two companies neither one really offers you, like, the competition doesn't really help the industry there. So, again, neither of those are multinational companies.
I always laugh at theaters. I'm a big movie goer because I like superhero movies. Shout out to my superhero channel, Superhero Cinema Scoop. Check it out. Anyways, I always laugh when I go to the theaters and they say, get a Regal card, stay with Regal, claim rewards. And it's like, I laugh because it's like, I'm just going to go to the theater that's closest to me. I don't care what brand it is,
Yeah, but when there's only 2 brands, why not get the rewards card? Because it's...
Well, no, I mean, I'm not fighting against the rewards card because I have a Regal Rewards Club because I go to Regal all the time, so I get their benefits. But it's weird that, like, in our town we have 4 grocery stores that all have a membership program, and that makes sense because they're trying to keep people coming back to their store. But when you live in a town with only one theater or 2 theaters across town, it's like, I'm not saying it's dumb. I just laugh at it because it's like, okay, I'll get your rewards program, but I'm just not going anywhere else. It's not because I'm loyal to you. It's just because you're my only option.
Well, yeah, but that's also, the company can say that's their way to reward loyalty, or to even just have you coming back more often,
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a fight against the other company, which that's obviously part of it. Yeah. But, I mean... I don't know. That's just part of it. But anyway.
Well, that was fun. We got 4 questions done today.
4 questions.
That's pretty badass.
And a reply.
All the questions were almost the same.
Pretty much.
Answer of the day, government's bad. Would you agree?
Government needs to be limited.
All right, let's... how do you feel about the vape ban, Matt?
I'm not happy with it. Let me tell you what I think about it. It's really stupid because the people who were dying because they were getting chemicals made in
the black market,
somebody's basement, which hence the reason it was all high schoolers, because adults could go find it where they wanted. Now you got President Trump raising the age to 21 along with a bunch of other states, but it's federal now, so it doesn't matter.
Yep.
And let me tell you what else you got. You got your stupid Space Force, which I'm not happy about.
Space Force.
Not happy about Space Force, people. Though Obama didn't do many things I liked, but one thing he did was he said, we're going to, pull out of working on space for a while. Let's deal with, problems here on Earth. Yeah. And I'm going to have to side with my friend Barack Obama on that one.
Wow, I've never heard you call Barack Obama your friend, considering that you call, what's her name? Alaska lady?
Sarah Palin.
Oh, yeah, she's your best friend.
When I quote her, I say my good friend Sarah Palin. Well, I've at least met her. So, but
one of these podcasts, you need to give me that picture of you meeting Sarah Palin, because it's the happiest you've ever been in your entire life, and I want that to be the cover of the podcast one episode, just so people can see. I was very
excited. But anyway... this whole vape ban, and what are the tabs in Washington State? What else are they doing in Washington?
Taxing by mile.
Taxing by mile, Space Force. This is all stuff that on a daily basis is driving me towards libertarianism. Now, luckily, I still have my mind working, and it still says, oh, we all have to follow some sort of, guidelines that we all agree on to keep our freedoms. As to where the libertarians are like, let's have a free-for-all and hope it works. But
burn down the Capitol building.
Exactly. So, but I definitely get the... I am getting more and more often, I'm understanding the frustration you guys feel. Yeah.
Sometimes the panic just sets in. Like, I'll just be walking around and be like, this area is gated off by the government. Why can't I walk there? It's a forest. But and I get panicky. I'm like,
Then again, it's like if you were in North Korea, and let's say you were North Korean, because you couldn't walk around as a white person without suspicion. Yeah. But let's say you lived as a North Korean for like a year, you'd be kissing America's ground when you came back.
Oh, so yeah, absolutely.
You got to also kind of count your blessings, and so the...
That's true. God bless America.
That's right. God bless America. And the way we're going to make America great again is by keeping our government limited. Yeah. Not by President Trump taking away cigarettes and putting people in space to fight wars. Mm-hmm. Why are we fighting wars in space? Does anybody want to explain this to me?
Man, those Martians are a real problem.
That's literally, it's a branch of the military now. It's not like a separate government department. It's a branch of the military.
Well, it's part of the Air Force, or they're pulling people from the Air Force.
Yeah, they're creating a separate wing of it, or they're merging off the Air Force to create a sixth branch, which.
It's funny that you focus on the Space Force so much, because I heard that and I just rolled my eyes and I was like, yes, this is to be expected, but you're like focused hard on that.
I'm focused hard on it being stupid, because the only way I can see it beneficial is if we get to a point to where we are fighting other countries in space. Like, so, you see Star Trek or Star Wars and two ships are having a battle.
Yeah.
Well, realistically, that's not going to happen. If there's alien life, it's probably too far away.
Don't take that hope away from me.
Shut up. Anyway, what's probably going to happen is we're going to be fighting each other up in space.
Yeah.
And I just think we're planning kind of early for that. Now, maybe later I'll be like, oh, thank you, Donald Trump, for protecting us from the Martians. I don't know. But right now, it's really stupid. I think any space travel needs to be privately funded.
That Space Force money should be spent on how would we stop a meteorite or a giant, space rock coming towards Earth? That would be better spent money figuring out how to stop that.
He's going to build a big, beautiful wall. And the meteors that come into America, they're going to be the best meteors we've ever had. We're not going to be taking just the rapists and the kidnappers. We don't want this. We want space to send us the best meteors. Okay? Okay, you guys. I've worked with some of the best meteors. Okay? So.
On that note, that is a perfect note to end the podcast. Thank you so much for everyone watching. This was a long one, but thanks for sticking around. Like, follow, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. You can find us on all those platforms, your favorite podcast streaming service, YouTube, and email us at quadrant4politics@gmail.com. That's the number 4, not spelled out, quadrant4politics@gmail.com. And we'll see you in the next one.